The space station called Harmony Point floated in the dark between two star systems. It was built for one purpose only: to bring different species together for peace talks. The metal walls were painted white and blue. Soft lights made everything look calm and friendly. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho walked through the long hallway. His black shoes made quiet sounds on the metal floor. He wore his best dark blue suit with the Earth symbol on his chest. This was the most important day in human history. Today he would meet aliens for the first time. Behind him walked his dog Beta. The German Shepherd had brown and black fur that was brushed perfectly clean. Bada wore a special blue vest that said Diplomatic Service Animal in 3 different languages. The dog looked around with bright eyes but stayed close to his human friend. Tae-ho had been Earth's best negotiator for 20 years. He had stopped wars between countries. He had made peace between enemies who hated each other for generations. But today was different. Today he would try to make friends with creatures from another world. The hallway ended at a big door made of smooth silver, metal. 2 guards from the Galactic Council stood on each side. They looked like tall blue creatures with 4 arms and no hair. One of them spoke in a voice that sounded like music. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho of Earth. You are expected in conference room, Alpha. Please remember that this is sacred ground. No weapons, no violence, only words of peace. Tae-ho nodded his head. I understand. We come in peace. The guard looked down at Bada. Your companion animal is cleared for entry. Our records show he has passed all behavioral tests. The big door opened with a soft sound. Inside was a round room with a table in the middle. The ceiling was made of clear glass that showed the stars outside. 6 chairs were placed around the table, 3 for humans and 3 for the aliens called Veldari. The Veldari were already waiting. Tae-ho had seen pictures before, but seeing them in person was different. They were tall like basketball players, but much thinner. Their skin was covered in scales that changed colors like a mood ring. Right now, the scales were dark green with spots of yellow. They had long necks and heads that looked like lizards. Each one had 4 eyes that moved independently. They wore red robes with gold patterns. The leader sat in the middle chair. His scales were bigger than the others and had silver edges. This was Overlord Thektar. He was famous across the galaxy for conquering planets and making other species surrender. His empire controlled hundreds of worlds. His armies had never lost a single battle, but today he was here to talk about peace with Earth. Tae-ho walked to his chair and sat down. Bada lay down beside him on a soft mat that had been placed there. The other 2 humans at the table were Dr. Park So-young and Colonel Nam Jin-soo. Dr. Park knew everything about alien biology. Colonel Nam was there to answer questions about Earth's defenses. Overlord. Thektar spoke first. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. A small machine on the table translated his words into Korean. Greetings, humans of the planet Earth. I am Overlord Thektar of the Veldari Empire. These are my advisors, Subcommander Rekval and Science Master Kintar. The 2 other Veldari nodded their heads. Their scales shifted to lighter shades of green and blue. Tae-ho had studied Veldari body language for months. These colors meant they were interested but cautious. Thank you for meeting with us, Overlord, Tae-ho said. He spoke slowly and clearly so the translation machine could understand. I am Ambassador Kim Tae-ho. This is Dr. Park So-young, our alien biology expert, and Colonel Nam Jin-soo, our military advisor. He pointed to Bada, who was resting quietly on his mat. This is Bada, my diplomatic companion. He is trained to help me stay calm during difficult negotiations. Overlord. Thektar's 4 eyes all turned to look at the dog. His scales flickered for a moment between green and orange. An interesting creature. We have heard that humans bond with lower animals. This is unknown to us on our worlds. Doctor. Park leaned forward slightly. Dogs and humans have been partners for over 30,000 years. They help us hunt work and provide emotional support. Bada can sense danger and calm tense situations. Fascinating, said Science Master Chintar. His scales were now bright, blue with purple spots. This meant he was very curious. On our homeworld, Veldara, all non-intelligent creatures are either food or threats. We do not understand this bonding. Tejo smiled and opened his briefcase. Inside were documents printed on special paper that would not tear easily. These were the peace treaties he had worked on for 6 months. Shall we begin with the trade? Agreements? He asked. Earth has many resources that might interest the Veldari Empire. For the next hour, the talks went very well. The humans offered food from Earth's farms, wheat and rice and corn that could feed millions of people. They also offered rare metals found in asteroid mines around Earth's solar system. The Veldari seemed excited about these possibilities. In return, the Veldari offered advanced technology, faster spaceships, better computers, medicine that could cure diseases that Earth's doctors could not treat. It seemed like both species would benefit from working together. Overlord Thektar's scales had changed to bright yellow and green. These were happy colors. He leaned forward to get a closer look at the trade documents that Tejo had spread across the table. But as the alien leader moved closer, something changed in the room. Bada's ears moved up from their relaxed position. The dog's nose twitched as he smelled something in the air. His training had taught him to recognize many different scents: fear, anger, sickness, lies, and right now he smelled something dangerous. The Overlord's chemical scent had changed. Hidden underneath the diplomatic words and friendly gestures was something else: aggression, hunger, the smell of a predator getting ready to attack. Bada stood up slowly. His muscles tensed. His lips pulled back slightly to show his white teeth. Deep in his throat, he felt a growl building. Every instinct told him that his human friend was in danger. The sound that came out of Bada's mouth was quiet, just a low rumble that lasted only 3 seconds. To human ears, it was nothing. Just a dog being a dog. But to alien ears, it was something else entirely. The effect was immediate and terrible. Overlord Thektar's scales blazed bright red like fire. His 4 eyes went wide with shock and rage. The other 2 Veldari jumped up from their chairs so fast that the document scattered to the floor. "Insult!" Thektar roared. His voice was so loud that the translation machine crackled with static. "Your beast threatens the Veldari Empire. It shows fangs and makes the sound of war." Tejo stood up quickly with his hands raised in peace. His heart was beating fast, but his voice stayed calm. "Please, Overlord, there is no threat here. Bada is just..." Silence. Thektar slammed his fist down on the table. The crystal surface cracked down the middle with a sound like thunder. "In sacred negotiations, the baring of teeth and voice of aggression means only one thing. You declare war on the Veldari Empire." The silence in the conference room was heavy like a stone. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho stared at the broken table where moments ago there had been hope for peace. The crystal surface was split down the middle. Pieces of it lay scattered on the floor, like broken dreams. Overlord. Thektar stood tall with his arms crossed over his chest. His scales were still burning red with anger. The color was so bright it hurt to look at directly. His 4 eyes moved between Tejo and Bada, who was now sitting quietly by his master's side. "You brought a weapon to sacred peace talks," the Overlord said. His voice was cold like winter wind. "This creature showed its teeth. It made the sound of battle challenge. This is how humans show their true nature." Dr. Park So-young quickly opened her computer tablet. Her fingers moved fast across the screen as she searched through files about Veldari culture. She had spent 2 years studying their customs, but she had never seen anything about this reaction to animal sounds. "Overlord, please let me explain," Tejo said. He kept his voice calm and steady even though his heart was beating fast. Bada is not a weapon. He is my friend and helper. Dogs sometimes make sounds when they sense danger. It was not meant as a threat to you or your people. Sub-Commander Rekval stepped forward. His scales were dark purple, which meant he was very upset. Ambassador, you do not understand. On our homeworld Veldara, there are creatures called death hounds. They hunt in packs and kill everything they find. When they show teeth and growl, it means they are about to attack. Science Master Chintar nodded his head. For 50,000 years our ancestors fought these beasts. Many Veldari died from their fangs. The sound your animal made is exactly the same as their war cry. Tejo looked down at Bada. The German shepherd was lying down with his head on his paws. He looked completely peaceful now. His brown eyes were calm and friendly. It was hard to believe this gentle animal could cause such a big problem. But surely you can see that Bada means no harm, Colonel Namjinsu said. He is small compared to your death hounds. He has not moved to attack anyone. He is just a pet. The word pet made all three Veldari take a step back. Their scales turned darker colors. Overlord Thektar's eyes narrowed to thin slits. Pet? He repeated. You keep a predator as a pet? This makes it even worse. It means humans are allied with hunters. It means you train killers for your own purposes. Doctor. Park found what she was looking for on her tablet. She read quickly and her face went pale. Oh no, she whispered. Ambassador, we have a serious problem. She turned the tablet so everyone could see the screen. On it was a picture of a creature that looked like a giant wolf with razor-sharp teeth and red eyes. Below the picture was information about Veldari history. According to this, the Death Hounds of Veldara drove the early Veldari civilization underground, Dr. Park read aloud. They lived in caves for thousands of years because these creatures controlled the surface. The growl of a death hound became the most feared sound in their culture. Any creature that makes this sound is considered a deadly enemy. Overlord Thektar walked to the big window that showed the stars outside. He stood there with his back to the humans for a long moment. When he turned around, his scales had changed to deep black with red edges. This was the color of war. You have shown us your true face, humans of Earth, he said. You speak words of peace, but you bring the sound of death to our meeting. You keep predators as companions. You cannot be trusted. He touched a device on his wrist. It glowed with purple light and made a soft beeping sound. Somewhere far away in space, his message was being sent to the Veldari war fleet. I hereby declare that diplomatic relations between the Veldari Empire and the human species are ended, Thektar announced. You have 72 of your hours to surrender your worlds or we will take them by force. Colonel Namjinsu stood up quickly. His hand moved toward his weapon, but he stopped himself. Violence in the conference room would make things even worse. Overlord, this is madness, he said. You would start a war because a dog made a noise? Millions of beings will die for no reason. The reason is clear, Sub-Commander Rekval replied. Humans cannot be allowed to spread their predator allies across the galaxy. Today it is one small beast. Tomorrow it could be thousands of trained killers attacking our colonies. Tejo felt like the world was falling apart around him. 20 years of diplomatic work had taught him how to solve problems between different groups. But this was beyond anything he had ever faced. How could he explain 30,000 years of human and dog friendship to aliens who saw all animals as enemies? Please, he said, give us time to show you the truth about dogs. Let us prove that they are not weapons. Bada has never hurt anyone in his entire life. Overlord Thektar shook his head. Words mean nothing now. Your beast has already spoken the language of war. The Veldari Empire responds in kind. The three aliens walked toward the door. Their robes flowed behind them like red water. At the doorway, Thektar stopped and looked back. Use your remaining time wisely, humans. Prepare your defenses or prepare to surrender. The Veldari Armada is already on its way to your solar system. The door closed behind them with a soft click. The humans were alone in the ruined conference room. Outside the window, the stars looked cold and distant. Among those stars somewhere, a fleet of warships was changing course toward Earth. Dr. Park was typing frantically on her tablet, sending messages to Earth. Colonel Nam was speaking quietly into his communication device, calling for emergency meetings with Earth's military commanders. Taeho sat down in his chair and put his hand on Bada's head. The dog looked up at him with trusting eyes. He did not understand what had happened. He only knew he had tried to protect his human friend from danger. "I'm sorry, boy," Taeho whispered. "I know you were just doing your job." 3 days. That was all the time Earth had before the Veldari war fleet arrived. 3 days to prepare for a battle against an empire that had never lost a war. 3 days to find a way to survive what was coming. The peaceful mission to Harmony Point was over. Now the real work would begin back on Earth. Humanity would have to decide how far they were willing to go to protect their world and their way of life. As their shuttle left the space station and headed home, Tai-Ho looked out at the stars one more time. He wondered if humans would still be alive to see them in a week. The galaxy had just become a much more dangerous place, and it had all started with 3 seconds of sound from a loyal dog trying to protect his master. The emergency meeting room deep under Seoul was filled with worried voices. Leaders from every country on Earth sat around a huge oval table. The walls were made of thick concrete and steel. This bunker could survive nuclear bombs, but nobody knew if it could survive alien weapons. General Lee Dong-min stood at the front of the room. Behind him was a giant screen showing pictures of space. Red dots marked where the Veldari war fleet was moving toward Earth. The dots were getting closer, every hour. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have 58 hours before the enemy arrives," General Lee said. His voice was loud and clear. "Our long-range sensors show 312 Veldari warships. Each one is 10 times bigger than our largest space cruiser." President Han Mi-jin sat at the head of the table. She was the first leader of United Earth. All the countries had joined together 5 years ago when they learned aliens existed. Now she wished they had spent more time building weapons instead of exploring space. "General, what are our chances? In a straight fight?" she asked. General Lee looked down at his papers. The numbers were not good. "We have 12 cruisers and 47 patrol ships. Our weapons are designed for fighting pirates and asteroids, not a real space navy. If we meet them in open battle, we will lose in less than an hour." The room was quiet for a moment. Everyone understood what this meant. Earth was about to be conquered by aliens, and there was almost nothing they could do to stop it. Defense Minister Yoon Suk-ho raised his hand. "What about our ground forces? We have armies on every continent. Surely we can fight them if they try." "To land troops." "The Veldari don't need to land troops," General Lee replied. "Intelligence reports say they can destroy cities from orbit. They can burn our atmosphere or poison our water. They can kill everyone on Earth without ever setting foot on the ground." Dr. Choi Jin-woo stood up from his seat near the back. He was a thin man with thick glasses who rarely spoke at these meetings. Most people knew him as the scientist who invented faster-than-light communication. But today he looked different. Today he looked like someone with a dangerous idea. "There might be another way," he said, "but it would require us to do things that no human civilization has ever done before." President Han looked at him with hope in her eyes. "Explain, Doctor." Dr. Choi walked to the front of the room. He touched the wall screen and new pictures appeared. These showed diagrams of human brains connected to computers. They showed spaceships with strange new engines. They showed weapons that looked like nothing anyone had ever seen. "For 20 years, I have been working on secret projects," he said. "Ways to make humans faster and stronger. Ways to make our minds work like computers. ways to change our bodies so we can survive in space without suits. The room was completely silent now. Everyone was staring at the impossible things on the screen. "You mean human enhancement," said science advisor Kim Yeon-jung, "making people into something more than human." Dr. Choi nodded. "The technology exists, but we never used it. We thought it was too dangerous, too scary. We were afraid of what we might become. But now we have no choice." General Lee studied the diagrams. "How many people would we need for this program?" "At least 5,000 volunteers," Dr. Choi replied. "They would undergo surgery to implant computer chips in their brains. Nanomachines would change their DNA. They would become stronger and faster than any normal human. Most importantly, they would be connected together. They would share thoughts and move as one mind." President Han stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see Seoul at night. Millions of lights from homes and buildings. Millions of people who had no idea their world was about to end. "What are the risks, Doctor?" she asked without turning around. Dr. Choi's voice became quiet. 30% of volunteers will die during the process. Those who survive will never be fully human again. They will be something new, something we have never seen before." The room erupted in angry voices. Some leaders shouted that it was too dangerous. Others said it was their only hope. Arguments broke out between countries that had been enemies before Earth united. President Han raised her hand for silence. When the room was quiet again, she turned to face everyone. "We need volunteers," she said. "People willing to sacrifice their humanity to save humanity. We need our bravest soldiers and smartest scientists. We need people who love Earth more than they love themselves." General Lee stepped forward. "Madam President, I volunteer to be the first." "As do I," said Admiral Park Chan-ho from the Navy. "And I," said Colonel Lim So-ra from the Air Force. One by one, the military leaders volunteered. Then the scientists. Then the engineers. Within minutes, over 200 people in the room had agreed to risk everything. Dr. Choi looked amazed. "I need to warn you all. This process will change you forever. You will be able to do things no human has ever done, but you will also lose things that make you human. You may not feel emotions the same way. You may not remember your families clearly. You will become weapons in human form." President Han walked back to her seat. "How long do we have to prepare?" 40 hours to complete the first phase," Dr. Choi replied. "The enhancement process takes 12 hours per person. We can do multiple surgeries at the same time, but we will need every minute we have." The president looked around the room at all the brave people who had volunteered to become something more than human to save their species. "Then we begin immediately," she announced. "May God help us all, and may God help what we are about to become." As the meeting ended, people rushed out to contact their families. They wanted to say goodbye while they were still completely human. In a few hours, they would begin the transformation that would either save Earth or destroy the last hope of stopping the Veldari Empire. The countdown to invasion continued, but now humanity had a plan that was as terrifying as it was desperate. Deep under the mountains of Tibet, the secret laboratory called Project Cerberus was working at full speed. Dr. Yang Hae-won had designed weapons for the military for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The underground complex was bigger than a city with tunnels that went down for miles. In the main surgical center, 50 operating tables were set up in perfect rows. Each table had machines around it that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Robotic arms with tiny tools, computer screens showing brain patterns, tanks filled with silver liquid that would change human DNA forever. Captain Ro Sung-ho lay on the first table. He had been a Special Forces soldier for 12 years. He had fought in wars around the world and survived missions that killed other men. But he had never been as scared as he was right now. "The nanomachines will enter your bloodstream first," Dr. Yang explained as she checked the machines. "They We'll rebuild your muscles to be 5 times stronger than normal. Your bones will become harder than steel. Your reflexes will be faster than a computer." She pointed to a device that looked like a metal crown. "This will be implanted directly into your brain. It contains quantum processors that will let you think at superhuman speed. More importantly, it will connect you to every other enhanced soldier. You will share thoughts, memories, and battle plans instantly." Ro looked at the ceiling. "Doctor, what if I don't survive?" Dr. Yang's voice was gentle. "Captain, you have a 73% chance of living through the process. Those who died in testing usually died in the first hour. If you make it, past that point you should be fine." Ro closed his eyes. He thought about his wife and daughter back in Busan. They thought he was on a secret military mission. They had no idea he was about to become something that might not remember how to love them. "Begin the procedure," he said. Dr. Yang nodded to her team. 20 doctors and technicians moved around the table like dancers. Needles went into Ro's arms. The metal crown was placed on his head. Machines started humming and beeping. The nanomachines looked like silver dust flowing through clear tubes. When they entered Ro's body, his back arched with pain. Every cell in his muscles began changing. His DNA was being rewritten by tiny robots smaller than bacteria. In the beds around him, other volunteers were going through the same process. Colonel Nam Jin-soo from the peace talks was on the next table. His face was twisted with pain as the machines rebuilt his nervous system. 3 beds over Admiral Park Chan-ho was unconscious, while robotic arms installed computer chips in his skull. "Vital signs are stable on patient 1, called out Nurse Kim Da-bin. "Brain activity is increasing beyond normal human levels." Dr. Yang watched the monitors carefully. Captain Ro's brain was showing patterns she had never seen before. The quantum processors were connecting to his neurons. His thoughts were becoming faster and more complex every minute. "How long until the connection is active?" asked Dr. Choi Jin-woo. He was watching from the observation deck above. "Another 6 hours," Dr. Yang replied. "The brain needs time to adapt to the new hardware. If we rush it, the patient could have permanent damage." While the surgeries continued in Tibet, other teams were working around the clock to prepare for battle. Engineer Kang Da-eun was in the orbital shipyard above Earth. She was installing new weapons on humanity's small space fleet. The plasma cannons were 3 times bigger than the ships were designed to carry. The power systems had been pushed beyond their safety limits. The hull armor had been reinforced with materials that had never been tested in real combat. "This is insane," said Chief Engineer Bae Min-ho as he watched sparks fly from an overloaded circuit. "These modifications should be impossible. The ships will tear themselves apart." Kang wiped sweat from her forehead. "They only need to last long enough for one battle. After that, it won't matter if they fall apart." She was installing the most dangerous weapon of all. The quantum displacement drive could theoretically let a ship phase through solid matter. In testing, it had worked twice and exploded 3 times. But desperate times called for desperate measures. Back in the medical center, the first patients were starting to wake up. Captain Ro opened his eyes and sat up on his table. But he moved differently now. Every motion was perfectly controlled. His eyes glowed with a faint blue light from the implants behind them. "How do you feel?" Dr. Yang asked. Ro tilted his head like he was listening to something only he could hear. "I can hear the others. Colonel Nam is dreaming about his childhood. Admiral Park is calculating orbital mechanics in his sleep. We are connected." He stood up from the table without using his hands. His new muscles moved like liquid steel under his skin. When he walked across the room, his feet barely made any sound. "Test your strength," Dr. Yang said. She pointed to a steel beam that was used to support the ceiling. Ro reached out and grabbed the beam with one hand. He squeezed gently, and his fingers left dents in the metal. When he pulled harder, the beam bent like soft clay. "Remarkable," whispered Dr. Choi from the observation deck. "The process worked better than our best predictions." More patients were waking up. Each one was transformed into something beyond normal human ability. They could see in complete darkness. They could hear conversations from across the room. They could process information faster than the most powerful computers. But the most amazing thing was how they worked together. Without speaking, they moved as one unit. When one soldier thought about a battle plan, the others instantly understood it. When one felt pain, they all knew where the injury was. "We need to test combat effectiveness," said General Lee Dongmin. He had arrived to see the results of the program. "How soon can they be ready for battle?" Dr. Yang looked at her watch. 18 hours until the Veldari fleet arrives. These 50 soldiers are ready now. The next group will be finished in 6 hours. The final group in 12 hours. She paused and looked at the enhanced soldiers who were now doing impossible physical exercises. "General, I have to ask, are we sure this is right? We have created beings that are no longer fully human. What happens to them after the war?" General Lee watched as Captain Rowe lifted a 300-kilogram weight with one finger. "Doctor, we will deal with that problem if we live long enough to have it. Right now, they are our only hope." The countdown continued. Above the secret laboratory, the people of Earth went about their normal lives. They had no idea that deep underground, their species was transforming itself into something new and dangerous. The Veldari Empire was about to learn that cornered humans could become the most terrifying creatures in the galaxy. The Veldari war fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a crimson storm. 312 massive ships appeared between Mars and Jupiter. Each dreadnought was 2 kilometers long and bristling with weapons that could destroy planets. The smaller cruisers and destroyers spread out in perfect formation like scales on a giant snake. Admiral Velkorth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. Through the huge window, he could see the blue and green planet that had dared to insult the Veldari Empire. Earth looked so small and peaceful hanging in the black space. Soon it would be burning. "Report from Scanning Division," called out Tactical Officer Zekmore. "The human fleet is approaching. 12 large ships and 47 small vessels. They are moving to intercept us." Admiral Velkorth clicked his tongue, which was how Veldari showed amusement. 59 ships against 300. These mammals must be even more stupid than we thought. Signal all vessels to prepare for easy victory. But as the human ships got closer, something strange happened. They were not running away or trying to surrender. Instead, they were moving in patterns that the Veldari computers could not predict. The small fighters danced between the larger cruisers like they were controlled by one mind. Captain Ro Sung-ho sat in the cockpit of his modified fighter ship. His enhanced brain was connected to the quantum communication network. Through this link, he could hear the thoughts of every other augmented pilot. They moved as one being with many bodies spread across space. "Target their command ships," he thought to his squadron. The message traveled instantly to 49 other pilots. "Show them what happens when you threaten Earth." The human ships attacked with a fury that shocked the Veldari. Plasma bolts tore through enemy shields while kinetic projectiles punched holes in armor plating. The experimental weapons performed better than anyone had hoped. But humanity's real advantage was not their technology. It was their willingness to die. When conventional weapons failed, Captain Rowe made a decision that no normal human would make. He aimed his damaged fighter directly at a Veldari cruiser and activated his ship's self-destruct system. The explosion tore a hole in the enemy vessel big enough to fly a shuttle through. "Pilot down," reported his wingman, Captain Lee Yu-jin, through the thought link. Rowe gave his life for a strategic victory. But Rowe's sacrifice was not unique. All across the battle zone, enhanced human pilots were ramming their ships into enemy vessels. When their hulls were breached, they continued fighting in powered spacesuits. When their weapons ran out, they used emergency tools as weapons. Admiral Velkorth watched in growing horror as his easy victory became a grinding battle of destruction. These humans fought with a desperation and creativity that his computers could not calculate. They seemed to care more about stopping the Veldari than about staying alive. "Sir, we have lost 43 ships," reported Zekmore. His scales were turning pale blue, which meant he was afraid. "The humans have lost 31 vessels. These numbers should be impossible." The Admiral's own scales darkened to angry red. "How can mammals in primitive ships cause such damage to the finest fleet in the galaxy?" On the Earth cruiser, Terra's Shield. Captain Kim Tae-young was fighting a battle that would have killed a normal human. Her enhanced reflexes let her dodge weapons fire that moved at the speed of light. Her quantum-linked brain calculated battle strategies faster than any computer. But the augmentation process had changed her in ways that went beyond physical ability. She no longer felt fear the way normal humans did. She could watch her friends die and continue fighting without emotional breakdown. Love and hate had become simple calculations in her enhanced mind. "All batteries fire on the dreadnought at Coordinates 74 Alpha," she ordered. Her crew moved with machine-like precision. They had been enhanced too, though not as extensively as the pilots. The plasma cannons fired at full power. The beams were so bright, they could be seen from Earth. They struck the Veldari flagship just as its shields failed from previous damage. The massive ship began to break apart in slow motion, but the humans were taking terrible losses too. For every enemy ship they destroyed, they lost 3 of their own. Earth's small fleet was being ground down by superior numbers and firepower. That was when Dr. Choi Jin-woo activated the final phase of his plan. Deep in the quantum laboratory beneath Geneva, the superweapon called Project Doomsday came online. It had never been tested at full power because the energy required could destroy half the solar system if something went wrong. "Initiating quantum cascade," Dr. Choi announced to the bunker filled with Earth's remaining leaders. "If this works, we will create a space-time distortion that will trap the enemy fleet. If it fails, we may accidentally destroy our own solar system." President Han Mi-jin watched the battle on screens around the command center. Earth's brave pilots were dying to buy time for this desperate gambit. "Do it," she ordered. The quantum field generators activated with a sound like reality tearing apart. Space itself began to bend around the Veldari armada. Admiral Velkorth felt his ship shudder as gravitational forces pulled it in impossible directions. "What is happening?" he demanded. Science Officer Neltak was staring at readings that made no sense. "Sir, the humans have created some kind of temporal distortion field. Our ships are being pulled into a quantum loop. We are trapped between seconds." The effect was horrifying to watch. Veldari weapons fired, but their energy beams moved slower and slower until they froze in space, like red lightning that never struck. Ships that were exploding suddenly stopped mid-destruction with pieces of metal hanging motionless in vacuum. But the Veldari were not helpless. Their own quantum technology let a small strike force break free from the temporal trap. 20 ships led by Admiral Velkorth himself escaped toward Earth's surface. "If we cannot conquer this planet, we will burn it," the Admiral declared. "Target their major cities. Show them the price of defying the Veldari Empire." The final battle would not be fought in the cold depths of space. It would happen on Earth itself in the peaceful places where this war had begun. And the humans would have to decide how far they were willing to go to protect their world and the creatures they loved. The Veldari strike force broke through Earth's atmosphere like falling meteors. 20 ships streaked across the blue sky, leaving trails of fire behind them. People in cities around the world looked up and saw their worst nightmares coming true. The aliens were here and they were bringing death. Admiral Velkorth chose Seoul as his primary target. The Korean capital was where Earth's government was located. It was also where this war had started when a simple dog had growled at a diplomatic meeting. There was bitter poetry in destroying the place where peace had died. The Veldari dropships landed in the Seoul diplomatic quarter. The beautiful gardens where ambassadors from different countries used to walk and talk were now a battlefield. Ancient trees that had stood for hundreds of years were burning. Peaceful ponds reflected the glow of alien weapons fire. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho stood in the ruins wearing experimental power armor that made him look like a robot warrior. The diplomatic suit he had worn to the peace talks was replaced by black metal plates powered by fusion reactors. His gentle face was hidden behind a helmet with glowing blue eyes. Beside him, Bada was no longer the calm diplomatic dog who had started this war. Cybernetic implants glowed under his fur. His teeth had been replaced with titanium fangs. His muscles were enhanced with the same nanomachines that had changed the human soldiers. The gentle pet had become a weapon designed for killing. It all started here, Tae-ho said through his armor's speaker system. In these gardens where we spoke of peace between species. Now look what it has become. Overlord Thektar emerged from his command ship, wearing battle armor that shimmered like liquid silver. His scales were burning red with rage that had only grown stronger during the long journey to Earth. Behind him marched 200 Veldari shock troops with weapons that could melt through steel. "Human ambassador," Thektar called out across the burning garden. "You brought a beast to sacred negotiations. You showed us your true nature. Now you will pay the price for that insult." The two leaders faced each other in the place where diplomacy had failed. Around them, the final battle of the war was beginning. Enhanced human soldiers fought against Veldari warriors among the ruins of peaceful buildings. Laser fire and plasma bolts lit up the night sky over Seoul. Colonel Nam Jin-soo led a squad of augmented troops through the burning streets. His enhanced body let him move faster than any normal human could run. His quantum-linked brain coordinated attacks with soldiers fighting on the other side of the city. But the Veldari were powerful too. Their weapons could kill enhanced humans if they hit vital spots. "Protect the civilian evacuation routes," Nam ordered through the thought link. "Do not let them reach the subway tunnels where people are hiding, Captain." Lee Yu-jin responded from her position near the government building. "Understood. We are holding the line at the Parliament complex. Heavy casualties, but position secure." The battle raged through the night. Human soldiers with superhuman abilities fought alien warriors with advanced technology. Buildings that had stood for generations crumbled under the assault. But the humans had one advantage that the Veldari had not expected. They were fighting for their home. Dr. Yang Hee-won crouched behind an overturned car with her medical team. She was trying to save wounded soldiers, but her equipment was not designed for the injuries caused by alien weapons. Burns that went through bone, cuts that would not stop bleeding, damage that even enhanced human bodies could not heal from. "We're losing too many people," she reported to command. "The Veldari weapons are more effective than we predicted. Even our augmented soldiers can't take much punishment." President Han Mi-jin was in the underground command bunker watching the battle on screens. Seoul was being destroyed, but she could not order a retreat. If Earth's capital fell, the Veldari would have won. Humanity would become slaves to an alien. "Empire! All remaining reserves to Seoul," she ordered. "Every enhanced soldier, every experimental weapon, everything we have left." Back in the diplomatic quarter, Ambassador Tae-ho was locked in single combat with Overlord Thektar. The human's power armor let him match the alien's natural strength, but the Overlord had centuries of battle experience. They fought among the burning trees with weapons that could cut through steel. Bada attacked the Veldari shock troops with savage fury. His enhanced muscles let him leap incredible distances. His titanium fangs tore through alien armor. The sound he made was no longer a gentle dog's bark, but a roar that shook windows blocks away. "Your pet has become what we always knew it was," Thektar snarled as he dodged one of Tae-ho's attacks. "A killer hiding behind a mask of peace." Tae-ho's enhanced reflexes let him spin away from the Overlord's energy blade. "And you have become what we hoped you were not. A conqueror who destroys rather than understands. The duel continued as the city burned around them. Both warriors were bleeding from multiple wounds. Their armor was cracked and failing. But neither would surrender. While their people were still fighting, then something unexpected happened. The quantum field that had trapped most of the Veldari fleet in space began to collapse. Dr. Choi Jinwoo's superweapon was losing power after running at maximum output for too long. The temporal prison was breaking apart. Sir, the main fleet is breaking free, reported a Veldari communications officer to Admiral Velkorth. They will be able to rejoin the battle within the hour. This news should have filled Thektar with joy. Victory was within reach, but as he looked around the burning city, something had changed in his mind. The humans had fought with a courage that impressed even a warrior who had conquered hundreds of worlds. A small human child ran across the battlefield crying for her mother. A Veldari soldier raised his weapon to shoot, but Captain Ro Sung-ho threw himself in front of the blast. He died protecting someone he had never met simply because she was innocent and afraid. Thektar saw this act of sacrifice and his scales began to change color. The bright red of rage slowly faded to deep blue. This was the color of respect among his people, a color he had not felt toward another species in his entire life. The Overlord lowered his weapon. "Stop!" he called out to his troops. "Cease fire!" The battlefield became quiet, except for the crackling of flames and the moans of the wounded. Human and Veldari soldiers stared at each other across the ruins, wondering what would happen next. Ambassador Tai Ho removed his helmet. His face was scarred from the battle, but his eyes still held the same peaceful intelligence that had once tried to negotiate between species. "Overlord," he said quietly, "look around you. Look what our fear and misunderstanding have created. Is this the galaxy we want to leave for our children?" Thektar's 4 eyes surveyed the destruction. Brave beings from both species lay dead in what had once been a garden of peace. A war that had started over the sound of a dog protecting his master had nearly destroyed 2 civilizations. "Your species is not what we expected," the Overlord admitted. His translator crackled as it tried to convey emotions that had no exact words. "You speak of peace, but fight like demons when threatened. You transform yourselves into weapons to protect those you love. Perhaps there is wisdom in your ways that we did not understand." Taeho extended his hand, just as he had tried to do at the peace talks that seemed like a lifetime ago. "The offer of friendship still stands, Overlord. We can choose to end this war with honor, rather than let it consume us all." Thektar looked at the offered hand for a long moment. Around them, soldiers from both sides waited to see if peace was still possible after so much death and destruction. Slowly, the alien leader reached out and grasped the human's hand. "Perhaps it is time for the Veldari Empire to learn new ways. Your people have shown us that strength comes not just from conquest, but from the willingness to sacrifice for others." Bada limped over to his master's side. The cybernetic dog's enhancements were damaged, but his eyes still showed the same loyal intelligence that had started this war. He looked up at the alien who had once seen him as a monster and wagged his tail once. This time, the gesture sparked hope instead of fear. In the months that followed, the Treaty of Soul became famous across the galaxy. It established new rules for first contact between species. It created protocols for understanding cultural differences. Most importantly, it showed that even the worst misunderstandings could be overcome if both sides were willing to see each other as more than enemies. The enhanced humans chose to keep their modifications. They became Earth's guardians and explorers, spreading across the stars to meet new species with wisdom earned through terrible cost. They carried with them the memory of a war that started with a dog's growl and ended with 2 species learning to respect each other's strength. And in the peaceful gardens of Soul, where new trees were planted among the memorials to the fallen, both human and Veldari children played together. They learned each other's languages and customs. They grew up knowing that differences between species could be bridges rather than walls. The galaxy remembered this day not as the moment diplomacy collapsed, but as the day two species discovered that peace is not the absence of strength, but the wisdom to use strength in service of understanding.